It's day 14, March 13th of 2026. Operation Epic Fury is in full swing, and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just went live and dropped some bombshells this morning. Iran's new supreme leader, Majabta Khamenei, is wounded and likely disfigured from U.S. and Israeli strikes. We know the so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured, is what Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said. Meanwhile, the regime's rhetoric is still in full defiance. It's said, we didn't see his face, but it's said that Majabta Khamenei is vowing to expel U.S. influence from the Middle East and destroy Israel. Still, the balls on this guy, supposedly disfigured and still spouting rhetoric. Just wild. This is a trash talker of trash talkers. This guy belongs in the UFC at this point. But he went on to say that they are promising continued attacks on U.S. and Israeli assets unless regional bases close and the U.S. completely withdraws, which is a snowball's chance in hell of that happening. And then he went on to insist that the Strait of Hormuz remains a tool of pressure and will remain closed. It's not exactly closed. There is some flow of traffic, but Iran is harassing ships effectively, striking different vessels. We've seen images of those vessels in flames. So at this point, they are still causing a lot of pressure on the area where a fifth of the world's oil supply flows through. So at this point, Iran's navy is gone, their air force is erased, missiles and drones are decimated, and now their leaders are being very highly focused on and wiped out. So this is American air power dominance. Stick around because we're going to cover everything that's been happening over the last few hours in Operation Epic Fury, including the disastrous and unfortunate incident of the KC-135 going down. Looks like 4 crew members have been lost so far, with 2 missing and a rescue operation underway. God willing, we'll find some of those crew members alive, but it looks like this was possibly, the rumors I'm seeing, possibly a mid-air collision with another KC-135 refueling tanker. And in the heat of battle, we don't know when it was, whether it was nighttime, even in daytime. It's so complex operating. It's like you have a skyscraper in the sky that's also refueling another skyscraper. It's very complex. So in an environment like that, the margins for error are so small that unfortunately safety incidents like this can happen. It looks like one of the aircraft did land safely, but I'll keep you guys posted on that as we get updates. But this wasn't a blue on blue incident, and it wasn't from enemy fire is what we're seeing from CENTCOM. But of course, Iran is going to claim that it was. That's what they do. I'm out here traveling today. I'm actually in Colorado. I'm going to the Air Force Academy later today to see a friend's retirement, a friend of mine that was on the Thunderbird. So that's why you guys get the new set. And it's an official set because I have a fake succulent plant right here. Nothing screams official like a fake succulent. Here's some of the latest breaking news we're seeing right now. This is the freshest stuff coming off the press. An Iran-linked hacker group has claimed responsibility for a cyber attack of a medical tech company. This looks like the first cyber attack from Iranian-backed hackers on actual U.S. companies. And then this satellite imagery is showing vehicle activity within a secured perimeter around Pickaxe Mountain right now. This serves as a reminder that dealing with Pickaxe includes dealing with pre-existing tunnels and facilities nearby. Remember, this is the facility that has hundreds of feet of granite, potentially 300 feet of granite. So we don't know if this has been struck yet, but likely this will become a part of the target package with the GBU-57, that mass ordnance penetrator that the B-2 has. And then this is very interesting. Pahlavi, the former exiled crown prince, he has come out and he's calling for nationwide strikes. Exiled crown prince Reza Pahlavi called for nationwide strikes on Wednesday, so just a couple days ago, positioning himself as the potential transition leader following reports that senior Iranian leaders were killed. Again, all this is kind of coming to a head, guys. You see kind of the momentum building for someone like Pahlavi to come in and at least create a transitional government. But him standing up and calling for this is the first time we've seen on day 14, the first time we've seen him really come out since the hostilities started and call for strikes in Iran. So it looks like he's now being positioned as potentially that transition leader, and he's got a lot of recognizability in Iran itself. And I really like this because, again, you guys have been asking me, what happens from here? Where do we go from here? What does this conflict look like? Does it look like Iraq or Afghanistan? And no, it doesn't. And this is directly from the Secretary of War. And this is why I love the fact that we have someone that had mid-level military experience and actually saw the downside of a massive invasion in Iraq and Afghanistan. Here's what he said. This is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Those days are dead. So I love that, and anybody who's been in the global war on terror and fought over there understands that a massive ground invasion is not the way to go. Today will be the biggest day of strikes yet, and we're just ramping up as Iran's combat capability is going down. So that's why they're resorting to more of that guerrilla warfare style shutdown in the Straits of Hormuz. And Iran's not nothing. Like, don't get me wrong, they're not slouches. Obviously, they have prepared and prepped for this guerrilla warfare style fight, and they're actually using underwater unmanned vehicles to strike some of these tankers. They're using the Shahed drone to do that. And at the end of the day, they bring a relatively tough, complex proxy guerrilla warfare mindset. And that's what they've done with Hezbollah and Hamas. And now they're just showing that they're the terrorists that they are. They're the same as Hezbollah and Hamas, and those are the tactics they're going to fall back on. So it is going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little while to root out that guerrilla warfare style fighting. And then this is really cool too. A B-21 has been seen recently, and this is on Gibson Galeris's Instagram page, has been seen refueling in the US. So could the U.S. be ramping up and focus on ramping up production of the B-21 to get it into the fight in Iran? I mean, it depends on how long the fight goes on. And this is the CENTCOM release about the loss of the KC-135 over Iraq. U.S. Central Command is aware of the loss of a U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft. The incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epic Fury. Rescue efforts are ongoing. 2 aircraft were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq, and the second landed safely. This was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. More information will be made available as the situation develops. We ask for continued patience to gather additional details and provide clarity for families and service members. And then this is some pretty crazy footage here of the B-1 being loaded down at Gloucestershire, England, showing U.S. Air Force members loading 2,000-pound bombs on the B-1. And that's likely a part of the massive strikes that we're going to see today, with the gloves being taken off against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' leadership. And basically all of the mullahs at this point are likely going to have their name on these bombs that are being loaded onto the B-1. The Secretary of War this morning at the Pentagon, the briefing was unrelenting. He called Iran's leadership desperate and cowering underground, and that today would be the biggest day of strikes. So could this B-1, is this going to be the focus, the hammer that's out front? Definitely has the possibility to do that. The massive amount of bombs this thing can carry is just insane. The U.S. is basically decimating Iran's military overall. It looks like the new supreme leader specifically has been wounded, likely disfigured, and his father was obviously killed, Ayatollah Khamenei, in the initial strikes on February 28th. And the U.S. administration reinforced this last night, saying we're totally destroying them. The Navy has been sunk, Air Force gone, missiles and drones shredded, leaders eliminated. And then President Trump went on to say, watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today, focusing on today. So that's why we're talking about the leadership today. And this lines up with day 14 operations that we heard talked about at the briefing this morning. Israeli strikes pounding Tehran again, the U.S. military's air campaign, keeping Iran launches down, 90% reduction in missile launches and drone launches from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's this huge. But the Hormuz area is still a strategic problem. It looks like the U.S. has released strategic petroleum reserves to release and cushion the blow, and then at this point unleashing these B-1s, B-52s, B-2s, F-15Es, F-16s. This is no holds barred. Basically, the regime is teetering on the edge, and to me, this looks like it could be the nail in the coffin that creates enough chaos that in the next few weeks, we see the regime fully crumble. Iran's regime is obviously fracturing right now at the top with Majab Khamenei. He was installed after his dad was eliminated, and he's already wounded, likely disfigured, per U.S. reports. Underground right now is his focus, basically staying underneath the city, and that's something that his dad would do a lot as well. But regime rhetoric remains defiant. The ball's on these guys. They are vowing to expel U.S. influence, destroy Israel, and keep Hormuz closed as long as possible. They're shifting to proxies, and they're leaning on their proxies, actually asking Russia to help support their proxies when they're on their deathbed. Russia's like, you sure you don't want a hand? Can we bring you some medicine? You know, you guys are about to be completely evaporated. And they're like, no, we just want Israel to die and the U.S. to die. And Russia's like, okay, sure, we'll give some weapons to Hezbollah while you guys get evaporated. Secretary of War labeled the leaders as rats that are hiding underground under the city. But what strengths does the regime actually still have? So they have those asymmetric threats and propaganda. Those are their two main things. And we've seen some of the US media outlets getting swept up into the propaganda and basically being tapped along by the actual regime itself. I mean, the regime can be relatively charming. If you look at what they've done to certain media outlets in the US that have actually published an obituary for the Ayatollah himself saying that he loves poetry. He loves poetry, long walks on the beach in his flowing robes, and when he's not killing 35,000 of his own people, he enjoys Scrabble. That's the kind of rhetoric we're seeing out of some of these media agencies, and it's just wild. But what it looks like to me right now is the leadership is in complete chaos. Over these next few weeks, I think we'll see even more of the leadership, potentially even no leadership. I mean, no one really knows who's exactly in charge of Iran right now. It's just full chaos. Their military has been gutted. They have no navy, no air force, and everything is being systematically erased at this point. But on the Straits of Hormuz, Iran is likely to focus on the Straits of Hormuz and focus on their proxies. So they want to lean hard into asymmetric denial to try to keep it closed because in their mind, that's the last thing they got besides the propaganda. They think if they can pressure the US enough and pressure Israel enough, at some point, the US and Israel will just pull out and be like, okay, oh, fine. Yeah, just keep the Straits of Hormuz open, okay? We'll remove our 50,000 troops that are decimating you every single day where no one really knows who's in charge of your country. Your entire military has been gutted. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and pull out just because of your asymmetric threats in the Straits of Hormuz. No, it's going to go the other direction with the U.S. ramping up anything that even looks like it's going to threaten the Straits of Hormuz, likely happening today, and using Lucas drones to go in and strike locations of Shahed 136 areas. So you're kind of using Iran's own medicine against itself. The Lucas drone was that reverse engineered drone that looks similar to the Shahed 136, probably just 100 times more accurate and capable, but you could just target those things with AI, have swarms of them go up along the coast near the Straits of Hormuz and strike down any drones that are coming in and trying to hit any of the ships. But Iran is also focusing on unmanned underwater vehicles such as those stealthy lithium battery powered Azdars. They are near silent and they extend endurance to up to about a couple days. And they're capable of approaching targets quietly in shallow waters. They can even maybe lay some sort of mines. So that might be their main focus, relying on those UUVs. And those systems can create doubt and risk aversion for some of the shipping companies that are just waiting outside of the Straits of Hormuz right now. Commercial shipping has been halted because even the threat of cheap drones or UUVs is obviously not good for the commercial industry. But let's move to the Allied response and what we're likely going to see today. So likely powered by those B-1 Lancers that we saw getting ready. I mean, at all hours of the night, those B-1s are likely dropping JDAMs and they're going to ramp up today and they'll be teamed up with F-35s that'll be slicing through defenses with their stealth to root out anything that could even want or think about targeting the B-1, even though there's probably basically zero surface-to-air missiles left. You never know. There could be that one-off that's a detached system that pops out and tries to strike at the B-1 or the B-52s. So those F-35s will likely be up there, creating those silent corridors, making sure that the bombers are protected at all times. And then the tankers. Again, the tankers are so massive. So it's incredibly unfortunate that we lost one of these KC-135 crews. They are the best of the best at what they do, and they're the reason why we can extend the reach and firepower that we do across the region. So hats off to all the tanker crews still out there right now, 24 hours a day, enabling these strikes to happen. So let's move to the 4D chess section. Obviously, you guys know I love saying 4D chess. This is classic coercion. Target leadership to shatter legitimacy in the regime itself and force a full all-out surrender, or just completely remove them, and then there'll be that little faction kind of in the corner. You can push them into certain parts of Iran. You can use pressure and just basically start rooting them out with the population of Iran leading the charge should a transitional figure come in. Because if you remove the legitimacy of the regime, now you might actually get some of the hardliners of the army of Iran that might also turn on the regime itself as well once they see the writing on the wall and they realize if they don't step into this new administration, them and their entire family probably goes bye-bye. So at this point, we see that the new Ayatollah has been wounded. That'll likely start to breed some sort of internal disarray where everyone sees the writing on the wall here at a certain point. point and understands that there's only one option moving forward, and that is either you go bye-bye or you become a part of the new future and a future of the free people of Iran. President Donald Trump said that the U.S. has plenty of time and firepower, and that messaging shows strategic patience for sustained air ops without ground entanglement at this point. Just continue to prep the battlefield, and then who knows, we might see some sort of surgical scalpel with special operations teams at some point, but there's really no need to do that yet. The internal fracture of the regime is starting to happen, and the shifts are starting to happen just with air power right now at this point. So I love the fact that we're not focused on a big ground invasion. So there you go, guys. There's the focus for today. Leadership being targeted and focused on. At this point, the gloves have been taken off against leadership, and I would expect to see B-1s, B-52s, F-35s step up attacks today with 15,000 targets being hit. At this point, it's just continuously ramping up, and the IRGC likely has no safe haven. What do you guys think? Where do you think things go from here? Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear what you think. Go ahead and follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there pretty much every day. And then join the Max Ready Room. Click the link in the description. Join the Max Ready Room. I do priority responses to the lives, and then watch this next video that pops up right here. I'm out traveling here for the next few days at the Air Force Academy. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.